Hey, it's Ben, and this is Drambo by BeepStreet. This video is just going to be a real quick tutorial on using the main track to either like change sounds that are on other tracks or actually transpose the notes. So what I have here, just a couple different sampler tracks, and it's basically like a folder loaded up with a bunch of different kick sounds that are mapped to different notes, or snare sounds, or hat sounds, and it just has this simple sequence playing. And if I want to, I can play the different samples manually, and I could put in different notes if I wanted to. But what I can do using this setup is just transpose on the main rack, and it's gonna basically impact the MIDI sequence that's playing on these other tracks, the first three tracks. And in this case, it's gonna change the samples that are playing. If I had a melodic instrument there, it would change the notes that are playing. So the way that works is just using the MIDI input for your tracks. So by default, these wouldn't be connected to anything, and basically the kick track would just have its own MIDI input, and it wouldn't be looking anywhere else to get its MIDI input, and the same for the snares, and the same for the hats. But when you connect the MIDI of any of these tracks to the main track, then you can basically transpose the sequence that's playing. So it's still going to play the sequence that's in on the individual tracks, but that sequence is going to be transposed based on what note you play here. So you can even put notes into the sequencer here, and you can sequence those changes in if you want to, or you can just do it live. So that's super quick way. If you're opening up a new track and you wanted to throw in just a bunch of samples, you go to the generator, open the sampler module, click edit, go to your little hamburger menu, and then load folder, and we could put in like a percussion folder. So now I have all these samples. We can just put in a couple notes. I don't even know what it's going to sound like. It's just stuff that. Okay. So, when I transpose here, it's not currently impacting that sample at all. But if I map it, now it's going to change. Okay. So using the sampler, you can change the samples that are playing when you transpose the note. Of course, you could also do this with melodic instruments. So real quick, I'm going to get that set up. Okay, so I've got this little sequence set up, just like a FM synth, and I played in my notes. And all I need to do now is connect the MIDI input to the main rack, and now I can transpose. And the only thing that you might want to do, or that you could consider doing, is adding a CV quantizer, and that's just going to lock your notes into a specific scale so that you don't get out of key. And it doesn't really matter because I don't have any other melodic lines playing here. But yeah, it's really easy. So you just use the MIDI input, connect it to the main rack, and then just by tapping on a key, you can completely change the sequence. And I'm not messing with the notes in the sequencer at all. You can lock this into the sequencer, which is fun. So, I don't have to be playing on the keypad. I can map these transpositions to happen just using a sequencer. So you have choices, basically. But yeah, so that's MIDI input on a track to the main rack, and then you can transpose, whether you're doing melodic lines or messing with samples.